So we've covered disruptive thinking, and we're ready to set our ego aside. We've got the courage now to take the mountain of this new great problem that we're going to solve. So I think we're ready now for this fourth episode of how to look, beyond the obvious. True blind spots are really difficult to overcome. Our point of view gets established and we're quick to focus on those obvious answers. Opening our mind allows us to see differently, but it's much easier to say than to actually do. We need some techniques to help us with looking beyond the obvious. So I'm going to start with an example, a fun one, I think. It uses billiard balls or pool. If you've played the game of pool or billiards, you're familiar with these balls. And we're going to study them a little bit and see what insights we can develop. And so let's start with focusing on the obvious, and then we'll work on the non-obvious. So first we can see that there are solid balls. They're numbered 1 through 8. And there are striped balls numbered 9 through 15. There's a cue ball that is all white and it's slightly larger than the others. And we know that the color scheme is reused between the solids and the stripes. See, these are obvious observations. Let's look at less obvious ones now. This color scheme is the same for ball N and N plus 8. So that means number 1 and number 9 use the same yellow, and number 2 and number 10 use the same blue, and so on. The cue ball is usually neutral in the game, so its distinctive all white separates it from all of the others, which is fine. It's supposed to be unique. And white is a neutral color. It's not intended to really add to the game. There's an unequal number of solid and stripes. The 8 ball is the 8th solid ball, and there are only 7 striped balls. That seems a little bit unfair, right? 8 against 7, that seems a little unfair. So since the 8 ball follows different rules in many games, we can conclude that the 8 ball really should not be solid. So let's think about this. What can we do to make the 8 ball different and yet still fit in this color scheme? So in other words, a flag 8 ball would make it different from all the others, but it does not really fit the color scheme. It just looks odd. You see, this is an obvious way to make the 8 ball different than the others. So how might we make the 8 ball different but still fit as part of the family of billiard balls? Moving into the realm of beyond the obvious, we need to study the other balls more closely. Let's pick the number 2 and the number 10 since they both use the same color, blue. So studying these, we can find that the number 8 ball has 5 colored surfaces. It has white on the bottom, it has a white dot with a number, and we know it has another white dot with a number on the other side that's not shown in the picture, so that's the third one. It has white on the top, that's 4, and then it has the blue stripe, that's 5. 5 different colored surfaces. The number 2 ball has 3 colored surfaces. It has the same white dot with a number in the middle, and we know if there's another one on the other side, so that's 2, and then it has the blue that covers the majority of the ball surface. So we have 5 colors for the 10, 3 colors for the number 2 ball. Now if we widen the stripe of the number 10 ball, it can look much more like a number 2, except for those minimized white surfaces on the bottom and the top. The stripe 10 is now largely a solid. It looks very much like the number 2 ball. Now let's build the same perspective on the number 2 solid. by increasing the diameter of the white area until it becomes a stripe like this. Wow, the 2-ball is now striped. Instead of solids and stripes, we can now say that they're all striped. Some of them are fat and some of them are skinny. Okay, fat and skinny instead of solids and stripes. It's fun. The number 2 does not look like the same stripes number 10 ball though. So there isn't a natural reduction or growth of a color boundary that we can do to the number 2 to make it look like the original number 10. This is insightful. This is looking beyond the obvious. We can make a similar change to the number 10 ball that we already modified. We made it look like a solid, and now we can make the same change of increasing diameter of the white around the number, and it can track the number 2 change. And so it can look like the number 2 again. So you see, this leads to another insight. The fact that the number 10 ball has 2 extra surfaces, it allows it to adapt closely to the number 2 ball. So now we're ready to work on the number 8 ball. Let's see what we can do to it to make it distinctive but yet fit in the family. And we'll put the number 10 and the 2 for reference next to the 8. So here's the first thing that we can do to the number 8. We can increase its diameter of the white, and you can choose what diameter that might be. It can grow and shrink, but as it grows, it becomes more striped, and as it shrinks, it becomes more solid. And if you look at that from the side view, you can see that although it may become more striped, the stripe is not a straight stripe like the number 10 ball. It's got this curvature to the stripe. So it's still distinctive from the stripes. So this may be one way to make that number 8 distinctive. We can take that design and we can wrap a vertical white stripe around it to make it even more distinctive. Or we can take that white stripe and go through the number horizontally, and that's another way to make it distinctive. And we can retain the original 8 with its white circle and then just put a stripe around it like this. And instead of going horizontal with the stripe, we can go vertical with the stripe. And if we still want to retain that look of a color area around the number, we can add a black ring around the number, you know, to try to retain some of that original family look. And finally, we can add another white ring around the 8 ball, like this picture. And that still breaks up that solid look, and it creates, you know, essentially 3 stripes. So that was fun. So let's focus now on the core framework that allowed this to work. So what did we do just now? We contemplated on the obvious. We established some criteria within the family. And then we worked within the bounds of this family to uncover some non-obvious choices. It's really simple. So let's look at some other examples. Roadway intersections. Here's a picture of a four-way intersection. You can see left turn lanes. You're very familiar with that. Very common. You can take that roadway and you can create a circle intersection that accomplishes the same thing. It's 4-way intersection with a circle. You've seen that before. Works a little bit differently, but people can use the same roadway rules, the traffic rules. And now this third picture shows something a little bit less obvious of how you might make turns. So rather than going straight through the intersection, there's no path directly through except for left turns, as you can see. And if you want to go straight through, you actually have to turn to the right, make a U-turn, come back, make another right to go through. And that's one way to assure that the traffic flow horizontally is optimized, and north and south pays a pretty big penalty of having to make this U-turn to get across the intersection. It's less obvious. And then the fourth picture here is really not obvious. You know, it amounts to two intersections that work as one. So using the same traffic laws, you can follow the flow of the traffic through this arrangement and usually get where you want to go. Sometimes you end up going the wrong way. You have to do it again. But it's a fourth way. Less common for sure, but in cases where there's an extreme amount of traffic, you may need to go to this degree in order to manage the flow of traffic. So that's interesting. Let's look at another example. Let's look at a mailbox. Here you have a traditional mailbox. Many people have it. And then here is a picture of a fish mailbox. It does the same function, but wildly different, right? Does this fit in the family of mailboxes? See, it doesn't. You can buy it, and it functions the same. But see, the fish mailbox has becoming a niche product. How many people are going to want a fish mailbox that's this distinctive, this different than the one on the traditional mailbox? So when you create this product that's such a niche, the volume will go low to those fishermen that really want and like this fish mailbox. Most people are going to opt for something more traditional. So if you want to get into the mailbox business, you might want to look at those traditional mailboxes and develop those same set of rules. What makes that family? And then what can you do within that family to add your product and your distinction and your differentiation there, as opposed to creating this niche product. So we covered how to see beyond the obvious within a given family of products. So now let's turn our attention to other ways to see beyond. Let's look at the human senses of sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. So consider how human beings interact with products using their five senses, and think about, can a feature addition address a new sense that isn't there now? So if you think of some products like hair shampoo, laundry detergent, cleaning supplies, lotion, those all cover sight, touch, and smell. The sight is usually the container, the packaging. Touch is the material. Does it feel like soap? Or does it feel runny like water? Does it smell the way you would expect it to smell? But they don't cover hearing or taste. So for hearing, could you add a low volume alarm sensor for those pump style containers? You know, one way to create this differentiation for your version of the product. Think of personal computers that cover sight, touch, and hearing. You have the sight of the display, you can touch the keyboard and mouse and touchpad areas. Hearing, you have the sound available to you, but they don't cover smell or taste. So for smell, how might we add a room deodorizer to the PC exhaust vent? Now you might think that's crazy, but we do it in our cars today, right? You can buy that product there. And for taste, how might we offer a candy bar or a snack with every purchase? It's a customer delighter, an indicator that we like our customers, and we're adding this small little bonus to the product on delivery. For automobiles, sight, touch, hearing, the new car smell, it's all there, but not really taste, right? So what does the automotive industry do to help cover taste? Well, when you take your car in for service, they offer you coffee and snacks at every visit, right? So they're trying to find ways to address that human taste sense. And for smell, they could offer free vacuuming or cleaning. They could certainly make sure that there's no oil or gas smells when you receive your car back. See, so there's ways to think about your product category in terms of these five senses. For puzzles, you're really focused on sight. You have 1,000 pieces in front of you, and the puzzle is to put it all together. It doesn't address touch, hearing, smell, or taste. So for touch, can you add a textured or 3D puzzle surface? For smell, can we ensure that the puzzle pieces have a pleasant odor, not this cardboard factory smell that they all have today? You see, this is an accepted characteristics of puzzles. They all smell like cardboard. Who says that's okay? You see, so now you can uncover a new way to add just a small differentiator to your puzzle. Software applications have coverage of sight and hearing and touch because they're computers. They don't cover smell or taste. So now there may not be a way to cover smell and taste in a software application. Okay, so instead of trying to cover those, how might we maximize the strength of sight, hearing, and touch within the user interface of that software? If you think of a process flow will cover sight as you're explaining a process of how to do something. It would not cover hearing, touch, smell, or taste. So how might we maximize the strength of sight, hearing, and touch? So for example, can we maximize the visuals inside those process flows so that they're clear? They have the psychological optimism built into them. Perhaps they have some audio, some simple audio, not distracting audio, but simple audio that helps build on the communication of those process flows. See, there are some things that we can think about doing. So I hope this video episode has given you some ideas of how to look beyond the obvious. I know there's really just a couple there. You'll find other dimensions and frameworks out there to help you find new ways to see a solution.